Drew Burris here, Tech Baseball Outfielder. Just like in baseball, success is all about making the right play at the right time. At Associated Credit Union, they help you knock it out of the park every time. Whether it's scoring a low-interest loan or hitting a home run with savings, ACU has your back. With ACU, it's like having a trusted coach guiding you to financial victory. So step up to the plate and swing away with Associated Credit Union. Associated Credit Union, where anyone in Georgia can live, bank, and grow.
Well, welcome to the Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King, and this is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And a strong republic is what I am after, 100%. As the intro stated, welcome to 2025. I know we're a couple of weeks in, but I'm so excited because starting next week, February 1st, the Janelle King Show will be airing at 5 p.m. on Saturdays, still airing at 9 a.m. on Sundays as my encore episode, but 5 p.m. it's going to be my new time every single Saturday. So if you're used to listening to me at 3 p.m., I'm so sorry. We're pushing it back a little bit, but don't worry. I'll still be on YouTube. I'll still have my podcast. So it's not like you won't be able to catch me. So I'm a little bit excited. I'm going to change up my format a little bit. It's an evening time, and I wanted to incorporate some different topics. You know, I really wanted to start talking about things that I believe is necessary. It's some of those kitchen table topics that families are not having as it relates to accountability, as it relates to feminism, as it relates to some of these things that are causing us to find ourselves in predicaments as we did a few years ago when we were debating whether or not there were more than two genders. So I'm so excited about this new time. So please keep that in mind. 5 p.m. starting next week. Well, today's kitchen table topic is pardons and executive orders, because we have a lot to talk about. And we're diving into some of the significant executive orders that were announced by President Trump. And we're discussing why these orders are crucial due to the immediate impact that they will have on our day-to-day lives. So I picked a few of his orders that I wanted to highlight. If I can't get to all of them, there definitely will be a part two. So I'm going to add a little bit of my take, but I'm mostly going to highlight the order that I believe is really, really interesting. So as a teaser, we're going to discuss orders that are requiring federal employees to return back to work. We're going to talk about the establishment of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. That's going to be led by Elon Musk. That's recommending we're going to talk about the recommending of federal programs, of cutting federal programs, and just how this all is going to reshape how government operates and just how efficiently it serves the public. So I really, really want to start talking about that. But most importantly, I'm going to talk about how these things affect you. We'll also talk about directive to revoke security clearances for over 50 former intelligence officers who signed a controversial letter denying the legitimacy of Hunter Biden's laptop. So we'll discuss how this move raised important questions about the due process system and just political accountability as a whole. We're also exploring the proposed regulations affecting the push to ban transgender women in school sports. Another topic that is absolutely stirring up here in Georgia and has kind of been on the forefront of our discussions here in the great state of Georgia. And of course, I'm going to get into some DEI and just discuss the ending of it and how I'm so glad that this program is being shot down. Because the truth of the matter is these executive orders are not just policy changes. They represent this pivotal moment that we're in right now of trying to reshape us back towards the way things were. And we're shaping the legal as well as the social landscape of the country to try to get us all back to where we were, because God knows we have gone off into the deep end. And I certainly believe that especially the executive orders that we're going to discuss in this particular show and possibly the next show will usher in what President Trump is calling the golden age for everyone. And I am going to highlight how it will benefit all of us. And it's a shame that we are now in a state where we have to show how decisions that are made on a federal level impacts every single person. And it's just really bad. But that just shows how divided we've gotten. And it started during the Obama era, and it just continued on and on and on until it spun out of control. And now we're here, and this is where we are. But before we discuss these executive orders, let's talk about another hot topic. Fresh off of Inauguration Day, President Trump is still in his first week of service. And we got to discuss some of these pardons, because a lot of the pardons are getting a lot of conversation. So now there was a lot of pardoning going on this month in particular, and particularly last month too, because President Biden at the time protected his family. He protected Dr. Fauci and the 50 or 51 CIA agents who lied, stating that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. So I am beyond disturbed about the Biden pardoning his son. But I knew it was going to happen. So although I'm disturbed about it, I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was coming. I know he was saying things like, I'm not going to do it, but we all knew he was. The fact is, he has made more excuses for that kid than any. Oh my God, it's just so bad. And the truth is, I know there are several parents out here who are dealing with children who are addicted to drugs. And I think we all know that while so many parents do it, enabling, it's never the right way to handle these type of situations. So I really, really want to make sure that that is highlighted too. So as we're continuing on, another pardon that just made me sad was Dr. Fauci's pardon. It just really made me upset, but it really made me sad because it proves that they've known all along. Like, first of all, let me start here. Let me start with this. When Dr. Fauci first came on the scene, and I know he's been around for a very long time, but I turned 40 last year. So, I mean, the 80s, I was a kid, right? But I will say that when Dr. Fauci showed up in front of President Trump, I knew that during the COVID stuff, and he was standing beside President Trump, something did not sit right with me. And I looked at my husband and I said, I just don't trust him. I don't know him enough. I don't know a lot about him. I mean, I know he's been around, but I haven't had, any type of interaction in my adult years. So I just know something does not seem right with him. And what really stood out to me was the fact that there were two resident experts, so to speak. It was Dr. Fauci and then Dr. Birx. Dr. Birx was the one who wore all the beautiful silk scarves. And I just always noticed that she spoke about things, but it was very rare and it was very, very straight to the point. Fauci would always add a little bit of his personal feelings about things. And it just made me feel like he was doing it for the camera. And I always am skeptical of people who can't check their need for fame. I'm really skeptical of it, especially in government, because it just leads to bad things. So the pardoning of Fauci really, really does make me sad, because it really does prove what we've known all along, which is that Fauci was never working for America. He was always working for himself. And I would venture to say maybe the Democrats used him to kind of infiltrate the Trump administration during COVID. And as a result, he recommended shutting the country down for months, which led to a rapid economic downturn. And now when it comes to these CIA agents, that's where I'm the most upset, because the Hunter Biden laptop revealed how the Biden family, the entire family, we're talking about cousins, uncles, brothers, everyone that Biden could get on payroll, he had on payroll, has been stealing from America for decades. And there were timelines, as my girl Heather from the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City says. There were timelines, there was evidence, there was receipts. It was so much that we had on that laptop, and the Democrat Party went to great lengths to cover it up, starting with going to first of all, Hunter Biden, the Biden family is who started covering this up from the very, very beginning, right? Let's just start there. He started by going to a blind business owner. I guess he thought that was going to be his first layer of protection, but clearly, even though he's blind, he's not dumb. So, okay, moving on. But then they had 50 or more CIA agents lie to the American people. Now, mind you, they're supposed to be representing us, but lie to the American people, along with colluding with Mark Zuckerberg to censor all of our voices around this issue so that he could fool us all into, or fool himself, I should say, but really fool us into, so that he can take that president's chair. And that, my friends, is what we call election interference. Anytime you can't get all the information available to make a decision regarding who to represent this country, then there's interference. This is one of the many reasons why President Trump is saying that the election was stolen. And no matter where you stand on the issue, you have to ask yourself if the Democrat Party has supporters who are deranged enough to attempt to take the president's life, not once, but twice, coming extremely close, do you think they won't take the ballot box? I digress. Let's just move on. I know it's a hot button issue that most people don't want to talk about, but you can't sit there and watch the president almost get killed and then think that these people somehow have the moral capacity to not try to steal an election. But anyway, so while Biden was protecting his people from future prosecution, President Trump's pardons were about righting the wrongs, starting with January 6th. If you don't know about January 6th, 2021 and what happened, just Google it. It's everywhere. But within the first 7 days, President Trump's re-election, he pardoned more than 1,500 people. And the pardon included some high-profile defendants such as Richard Bego Burnett, who was sentenced to 54 months, and then Peter Stager, who admitted to assaulting a police officer with a flagpole. Trump expressed hopes that offenders would be released from prison early as the night of the pardons. The Federal Bureau of Prisons stated that 211 individuals were freed following Trump's order. The Fraternal Order of Police recognized the pardons, stating that they were deeply discouraged by this decision, with nearly 60% stating he should not have 60% of Americans stating that he should not have pardoned the Capitol defenders. But Trump describes the pardons as a response to a national injustice and step towards reconciliation. The U.S. Supreme Court in June 2024 ruled that federal prosecutors overstepped their authority in charging those involved in the January 6th events. I happen to agree with President Trump, and let me tell you why before you tell me that I'm only doing it because it's Trump. I agree with President Trump's statement when he said that it was, I paraphrase, but his exact words was a response to national injustice and a step towards reconciliation. For the record, of the 1,500 people who was pardoned, I would say about 98% should have possibly sat in prison. 98% shouldn't have sat in prison for years, of which the 2% that's questionable, I do believe that the Biden administration, I do believe that the Biden administration is the whole reason why they're free right now. I believe that the Biden administration is the ones who really freed them when they refused to follow due process. Every single American is entitled to due process. I don't know all the details, but I will say this. The Supreme Court does know all the details, and their ruling on June 24th stating that federal prosecutors overstepped their authority, that is where I am getting my perspective from. No matter if you're standing before a county judge or a federal judge, everyone must follow the law. You can't break the law, then charge the next person for breaking the law as you're breaking the law in the process. It just doesn't work like that. And unfortunately, here in the civilian world, we see things like this happen and we call it a mistrial. And unfortunately, in that case, there are times where bad people do get off and their cases do get dismissed. So if you want to see justice served, you must follow the law while serving it. Up next, we're discussing Trump's executive orders. No, not all 200,000 of them, just a few of them that I believe will impact us immediately. You're listening to The Janelle King Show. I am Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. We'll be right back.
All right, folks, here's a stat that'll make you think twice. The average household carries over $7,000 in credit card debt. With interest rates often above 27%, that's a tough defense to beat. Here's the game changer. Transfer your credit card debt to an ACU Visa credit card and get a low 5.9% APR for 12 months with no balance transfer fee. It's your chance to score big and drive toward financial freedom. Apply at acuonline.org/transfer. Associated Credit Union, where we help you live, bank, and grow.
Welcome back to the Janelle King Show. This is Extra 106.3, and this is where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And I am Janelle King, and remember, starting next week, February 1st, we will be coming on at a new time. Instead of 3 p.m., we'll be coming on at 5 p.m. And so please, please, please stay tuned. Well, today's kitchen table topic are pardons and executive orders. And before the break, we discussed the pardons. So check that out on YouTube, or if you're listening to the radio, you can always catch an encore radio episode tomorrow at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3. But now let's go on and start discussing the executive orders that caught my eye, because I believe they will have an immediate impact. And let's start with immigration. So President Trump signed an executive order that introduces significant changes to immigration enforcement here in the United States. This order allows U.S. military service members, including those from the Ready Reserve and the National Guard, to act as immigration and border enforcement officers, a move aligned with Trump's mass deportation objectives. The executive orders also aim to strengthen security at the southern border. Notably, the termination of the CBP One app. Yep, that's what I had. Yep, they were giving illegal immigrants cell phones with the United States government apps on it, giving them direction on how they can help walk them into citizenship, even though their neighbor who came here legally had to wait 10 years. But okay, so this is what the Biden administration was trying to do. So anyway, the app is now terminated, thank God, which allow nearly 1 million people to enter the United States, quote unquote, legally. No, it's not, illegally. They canceled existing appointments and was made under the Biden administration. Key provisions in this order and the orders include plans to end access to asylum, to suspend the refugee program, because how can we take in any refugees when we have millions of illegal immigrants that we don't know and we can't find? And this provision also included sending troops to the U.S.-Mexico border. Additionally, the push to end birthright citizenship and designate criminal cartels as foreign terrorist organizations is all in order as well. Another critical component of this executive order is the decision to pause federal funding to non-governmental organizations, NGOs. Woo! NGOs have been like oh my goodness, the vein of our existence. I mean, it's just been so bad. The support, a famous NGO, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a famous NGO that you probably have heard of is Stacey Abrams' organization, Fair Fight. Okay. But it's nothing fair about that fight. But okay, moving on. Federal funding to NGOs that support or provide services to removable or illegal aliens, and pending reviews to identify operations that might promote violations of immigration laws. In other words, the government, our U.S. government, President Biden, was circumventing the law and using United States tax dollars to take care of illegal immigrants. And the way he was doing it was they were sending money to these organizations who was then providing services. Let's talk about some of these services they were providing. So the Department of Justice has instructed federally funded legal service providers, federally funded legal service to illegal immigrants, okay, to stop supporting immigrants in immigration courts, affecting programs such as the Legal Orientation Program and the Immigration Court Help Desk. And for those of you who are saying that this is bad, minors are not being legally represented. You're picking up legal citizens, which, by the way, this whole narrative that somehow, as we are rounding up those who are not supposed to be here, we're going to accidentally grab people who are supposed to be here, is one of the most extremely racist comments and perspectives I've seen come from the Democrat Party in a while. Now, mind you, they say a lot of racist stuff and then say that we're racist. However, this one, I think, takes the cake. Because what they're really saying is that if you are a Democrat, you who is concerned that officers will not be able to tell the difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, keep in mind, you're also saying that they are grabbing people who look like an immigrant without verifying status, which is the very definition of racism. Then you have people who are in California who wishes to protect their quote unquote citizens who are not citizens, but that's what they want to call them, and are not necessarily working with ICE in order to help rectify this and to support this initiative. So what are they protecting them from?
Well, Emily, we've heard officials here in Boston and in Massachusetts say repeatedly they are not going to cooperate with ICE or mass deportation efforts by the Trump administration. And ICE says, well, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to cooperate with us. We're still going to go into your city and we're going to do the job. And we were with ICE Boston yesterday for about 10 hours as we got to watch them firsthand carry out immigration enforcement. Take a look.
Good morning, everyone.
It's a frigid 5 degrees in the pre-dawn hours just outside of Boston, where this team of elite ICE officers is briefing on their targets for the day.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
Within moments, the officers are on the move, with eyes on their first target.
Looks like we got movement, target vehicle coming out.
They quickly take him into custody. He's an MS-13 gang member wanted in El Salvador for aggravated murder. And he has an Interpol red notice out for his arrest.
We are targeting very violent threats to our community.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
ICE Boston quickly takes down its next targets, including this illegal alien from Brazil who has an Interpol red notice for armed robbery. This Salvadoran illegal alien charged locally with rape and released by a sanctuary jurisdiction.
Señor, ¿cómo se llama?
And this Dominican illegal alien charged with assault with a deadly weapon and heroin trafficking. Officers also arrested this Guatemalan MS-13 gang member facing gun charges. ICE says he was released from local custody just the day before. Their detainer request was ignored because of sanctuary policies. And in a sign of shifting priorities with the new Trump administration, this man, who was in the same apartment as the target, was also arrested after ICE determined he's also in the U.S. illegally. This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person was released back into the community, and when we went to go find him, he's with somebody else who was previously removed from the United States. So he's going to go today too.
And that is exactly what Border Czar Tom Homan has warned would happen.
When we find the bad guy, he's probably with others that are in the United States illegally. They may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
ICE Boston says they will continue to go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job.
Okay, let's move on to the orders that will affect your pocketbooks. So President Trump announced the creation of an External Revenue Service, an agency designed to collect tariffs or taxes, basically, from international taxes. So if you would think about tariffs, just think about paying taxes, but international taxes, duties, and other revenues from foreign trade. Trump emphasized that this initiative is aimed at ensuring that foreign entities profiting from trade will finally pay their fair share, while the Dems are advocating for raising taxes on the wealthy. They're giving tax breaks to foreign countries. It was as if they had something on him Who are we talking about? President Biden. That's the only reason why I would think that he would be giving tax breaks to other countries and then fussing at us, saying that we don't deserve them. Americans, you made too much money here in America. You made too much money for America, and we are not going to reward you. You don't deserve a tax break. You know who does? China does. This guy is insane. I'm so glad that they are gone. Anyway, this announcement aligns with his campaign promise, President Trump's campaign promise, of an American first trade policy, which includes imposing tariffs on imports to protect domestic industries. Now, the big question that I'm hearing surrounding this new agency is whether or not it will replace the IRS. I certainly hope that it will. And I do see where the capability is there for it to replace the IRS. And, just imagine living in a world where foreign countries are taxed to make money off of us rather than we being taxed for making money off of them. So in other words, if I purchase something or if I start a small business and I get products from overseas and then I sell it here in America, it's like the small business was getting hit heavier than the foreign country. So, and the business is what's keeping our economy moving. So we kind of had that backwards. So I'm glad this is happening. So hopefully this will lead to some additional tax cuts on us because the revenue from the ERS, I'm hoping, will cover some of our government costs. And that way it will reduce them being so in our business when it comes to the IRS. In addition to this new revenue initiative, Trump signed an executive order to pause the implementation of the U.S. ban on TikTok for 75 days. This move prevents the Attorney General from enforcing a law passed by Congress in 2024 during the Biden administration, which required TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, to sell the platform due to national security concerns. Trump suggested that the United States negotiate a deal allowing us to own half of TikTok, which is estimating, let me tell you how much this platform estimated value is at. Right around $1 trillion. Now we're in debt by like 31 trillion or something crazy. However, 1 trillion, we can use it, or at least some of that. Particularly if you're making that money off of us and giving us nothing for it. And you're collecting all the data on all of our U.S. citizens. There's your national security concern. Okay? So, yeah, we need a cut. Yep, run us our money. This is another example of a foreign company, I believe, that's just making money off of us and taking advantage of us. And we had weak leadership that didn't have the... Since we're on the radio and it's not the evening yet, because at 5 o'clock I'll be able to say it. But since they don't have the courage, we're going to just say the courage to stand up to these other countries and say, no, you don't get to just take money from us. But anyway, thank God we now have a president who does have a backbone and has the courage. The decision to delay the TikTok ban followed a temporary shutdown of the app, which impacted approximately 170 million American users. 170 million. Okay, that's how many Americans this China and ByteDance has been able to obtain information on. Okay, now mind you, I've never had a TikTok account. Maybe I'll get one once we now own 50%, but I just haven't had one. So we'll see. These actions will be felt immediately and reflect on a sort of a dual approach, I believe, to an economic policy with the focus of generating revenue from international trade while also trying to navigate some of these complexities of the technology world and the national security concerns. But I totally believe that Trump is up for it. More great executive orders. I suggest that during these 75 days when TikTok and CapCut are platforms that if there are platforms that you are using, I suggest during these 75 days, start downloading your data, start transferring to another platform if possible, just for now, because after the 75 days, there could be a legal battle that, who knows, could last for a very long time. And that doesn't mean that Trump's going to extend the ban. It could mean that it will shut down until they figure this out. And then there'll be issues. Or it can just be a quick, overturn. I just suggest having a plan B, because you just never know. But, I do believe that Trump is going to try his best to get it all done within the 75 days. Moving on to energy. Trump signed an executive order requiring all federal agencies to submit their plans to the White House Office of Management and Budget, which the OMB plays a very critical role in overseeing our federal budget and shaping like the financial framework of the government programs. So they're pretty much all government program stuff. Well, Trump asked all federal agencies to report to OMB within 30 days with a plan to eliminate regulations and rules that are deemed burdensome to domestic energy production and consumption. This directive highlights areas of particular interest, including oil, natural gas, coal, hydropower, biofuels, critical minerals, and nuclear energy. The lead of OMB, the Office of, what do they call this again? The Office of Management and Budget. Trump has nominated Russell Vought, who was the person who previously held this position during his first presidency. So Vought did a good job. He didn't get fired and he got brought back. Good job, Vought. But he has a track record of proposing significant spending reductions, and he has a very ambitious plan that he's outlined that leads to $11.3 trillion in cuts alongside $2 trillion in tax reductions aimed at achieving a budget surplus by 2032. So he has a very robust plan, and I love that they're already starting to talk about it. But this executive order to me signals a strong push towards deregulation and revitalizing the domestic energy sector. During the Gilded Age, right? So during the time period where the Vanderbilts, the Rockefellers, the Ford, like everyone was just popping. I mean, their businesses was amazing, okay? During that era, the reason why they were able to make so much money and they were able to become so successful and push the industrial age so fast is because they weren't regulated to death. And so, I'm not saying we should do away with all regulation, because, there were some other issues that occurred during that time. A lot of issues, matter of fact, as they were trying to figure all this out. But I do think that we need to look at how much are we regulating people, while we're also talking about revitalizing the domestic energy sector. But anyway, this move leads to new jobs, I believe. I also think that it's going to be getting those industry workers back to work, the many people who were shut down when we stopped drilling here in America. And I think we should see some gas prices come down. And because it's the market that's doing all of this and changing things and not the government manipulating it, I do hope that we see some price changes come down, or as far as gas, I'm hoping we see a major turn with that. And this turn was here to stay, right? Because the government's not manipulating our gas prices, which typically is like a temporary relief and then it's followed by this financial setback. You're not going to see that. Like, this should be an upward trajectory. So gas prices should either keep getting lower or stabilize if he's doing the right things. And I'm interested to see the results of this action. And I'm wondering if we'll start seeing something by the end of fall, kind of going into the holidays this year. Now, let's move on to social issues, starting with healthcare. So one of President Trump's executive orders takes significant steps towards repealing key Biden directives aimed at making it easier for Americans to enroll in Medicaid services and secure insurance coverage under the Affordable Care Act, ACA, which was an absolute disaster. And now, it's important to keep in mind that the lowering of prescription drug costs, this action does not repeal the Biden-era policies such as the $35 monthly cap on insulin or Medicare's $2,000 annual out-of-pocket cap on prescription drugs. Those provisions remain in effect due to the federal statutes that was passed by Congress. Recent statistics indicated that there's nearly around 24 million Americans enrolled in the Affordable Care Act, which is Obamacare, during the last enrollment period of the Biden administration, which marks a 9% increase from the previous year. And this hike includes 3.2 million new customers, according to the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. considering the fact that Medicaid numbers jumped drastically in 2020 due to COVID layoffs, where we are now at a staggering 60 million consumers of Medicaid with around 1.1 million physicians to handle this caseload. That's about 10 minutes or less that they get to spend with their patients. How can you say that that's quality care? It's not. And the only way to fix it is that you have to plug the hole and replace it with policy. And that will then release the free market onto the healthcare system, which we have been waiting for and we need for a very long time, and will break up insurance monopolies. And this would then be that first step that is necessary to helping to bring down some of this cost that's associated with healthcare. And I suspect that there's going to be some insurance companies that are going to start moving in the right direction, sensing the writing on the wall from President Trump. And I believe that many of you may begin to see the effects of that pretty soon. After the break, I'm going to finish up talking about healthcare, and then I may introduce some of the DEI stuff, or I may just save that for next week. Until then, you're listening to The Janelle King Show. I'm Janelle King. This is Extra 106.3. We'll be right back.
Drew Burris here, Tech Baseball Outfielder. Just like in baseball, success is all about making the right play at the right time. At Associated Credit Union, they help you knock it out of the park every time. Whether it's scoring a low-interest loan or hitting a home run with savings, ACU has your back. With ACU, it's like having a trusted coach guiding you to financial victory. So step up to the plate and swing away with Associated Credit Union. Associated Credit Union, where anyone in Georgia can live, bank, and grow.
This is the Janelle King Show right here on Extra 106.3, where we discuss kitchen table topics that are typically banned from family gatherings, but are absolutely necessary in order to have a strong republic. And if you're joining us for the first time, don't worry. You can catch an encore episode tomorrow at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3. And remember, our podcast drops every Tuesday wherever you get your podcast. And if you're feeling eager, you can watch the video podcast right now on YouTube. Just remember to subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, and your likes, comments, and shares are always welcomed. Now grab a seat and let's get back to the table. Welcome back to the Janelle King Show. And we are now talking about Trump's executive orders. And I want to continue talking about healthcare because we just got finished talking about what's going on with the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare and all that stuff. But continuing on talking about healthcare, additionally, the executive order includes withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization. Oh my gosh, can we get a round of applause? Woo! Because this order now directs the White House of Office of Management and Budget, OMB, to stop future financial contributions to the organization. And this move also instructs the Secretary of State to halt negotiations on the World Health Organization pandemic agreement, whatever that is. Many scientists expressed concern about withdrawing from the WHO. That it could, and their concern is that it could reverse advancements in addressing diseases like AIDS and tuberculosis. Here we go with the fear mongering, right? Because now we've been living with AIDS for God knows how long, because Dr. Fauci said that he was going to have a vaccine. He said that he was going to have something to prevent this, to stop this. And he said this in the 80s and that it will be ready in the 90s. We are in 2025 and it has not happened. So I think we'll be okay. Experts warn that this decision might weaken global responses to pandemics and disrupt efforts to eradicate diseases such as polio. Oh, please, y'all, come on. We got to stop this. We just got to stop this. Anyway, every country should be in control of their own response. That is the right way to do it. And every leader of every country should be in relationship with other leaders so that they know what's going on. We do not need a middleman. We do not need especially a middleman like the WHO, who has zero checks and balances and pretty much is the arm of the Democrat Party. But anyway, Trump's announcement follows a period of tension with the WHO, particularly during COVID-19. when he held the organization accountable for various perceived mismanagement of issues. Absolutely. They didn't know what was going on, but yet they were telling everybody else what to do. But anyway, the WHO secretary expressed hope that the U.S. will reconsider its decision, emphasizing the vital role our contributions play in global health initiatives. Oh, we know. We know that America is paying pretty much for everybody's issue. But then when it comes time for y'all to make a decision that's not going to hurt us, that's going to benefit us, no one has anything to say, or you're coming up with these decisions that ultimately kills economies. Why do we have the WHO? I have no idea. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I want to close out on my last issue, which is the more of social stuff, which is the diversity, transgender rights, and civil rights, aka DEI. You are up next. Let's get to talking about it. So President Trump signed a significant executive order that aims to reshape diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, DEI, across the executive branch. The order gives federal departments and agencies 60 days to eliminate, thank God, to eliminate their DEI programs, including the positions of Chief Diversity Officer, whatever that is, equity action plans, more craziness, and in environmental justice roles, right? Because the environment can be unjust, can be unjust. I get it. I know. Let me tell you, Mother Nature has definitely, or how, environment, whatever, it certainly has a mind of its own, and it can be ruthless, but I don't think we can control it. But anyway, agencies are also required to provide the White House Office of Management and Budget with a detailed accounting of previous DEI initiatives. We're coming for it, including the names of contractors and grant recipients involved, right? Because we need to figure out, what did you do with our money and how did you spend it, and if you actually had a return on it. Let's go find out. Additionally, the order dissolves the White House Gender Policy Council and repeals the Department of Education guidelines on Title VI regarding transgender rights and corresponding recommendations for supporting LGBTQ students in school. The Biden administration's Title VI rules aim to expand protections for LGBTQ plus students by sacrificing the futures of young girls and women. That was their plan. While we had our first female vice president. Can you believe it? That was her contribution. She killed girl sports. The protections were struck down by U.S. District Attorney Danny C. Reeves, who found the policies of the Biden administration exceeding the president's authority. This ruling, which addressed a lawsuit brought by several different states, including Tennessee and Kentucky, has been described by Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skrmetti as a victory for the protection of girls' privacy in locker rooms and showers, effectively restoring previous legal standards. As a part of the executive order, the United States government will officially recognize only two genders, male and female, on passports, visas, global entry cards, and all government documents and communication. The left is absolutely trying their best to make this order racist, but the problem is, when it comes to our children, racism is placed on the back burner, and there are too many minority parents who have children in the public school system, and they want to see their child have a fair shot and an opportunity to succeed in sports. And like everyone else, and before you say, that's the same argument of trans parents, that they want to see their kids have a fair shot and they want to see their kids have opportunity in sports. Please keep in mind that if your child is a trans child, they have an option of playing in two different team sports. They can choose the gender they were born with or the gender they're choosing to be. When in fact, my child may only have one option because they're living in the gender they're born with. And so now your child is taking away the one option, the one opportunity that my child may have. It's not the same. You get two, I get one. Okay? It's not the same. What made it balanced was putting boys with boys and girls with girls. And the same goes for this whole DEI removal. You have to look at where these policies have gotten us. For one, we are more divided than ever. White people have been made out to be the villain. when I thought that the whole purpose of DEI was supposed to be educating and promoting inclusiveness, but it feels like you are excluding people, particularly white people. And many of the DEI instructors are being paid six figures to tell white people that they're racist, that they will always be racist. And while all of this is happening, it seems as though the very people who are telling them this are extremely racist themselves. So all of it is absolutely ridiculous. And I do believe that we are in a position now where we can do better. Ultimately, I believe majority of America wants to get back to normalcy, not perfection, because we have a lot of stuff that we can address, a lot of areas that we can fix and we can really grow in. But we have to have a baseline, a starting point, somewhere where we all can stand and agree that this is what America stands for. This is who we are. This is where we are. And unfortunately, you can't do that when you're telling people that there are 56 genders. Because if we're sitting here debating about how many genders exist, so much so that the president has to sign an executive order declaring that there are only 2 genders that will be recognized by our government, meaning that private businesses will continue to force this narrative, in some cases, not all, but to force this narrative that there is somehow more than 2 genders. If we can't agree on something as obvious and something as easy to prove as whether or not we have 1 gender or 2 genders, how in the world are we supposed to address bigger issues? That is why the role of the government is to be the standard bearer. President Trump has breathed new life into the White House. Journalists are now saying that they forgot how hard they used to work when they had an administration that actually worked because the Biden administration was asleep. So the golden age is upon us, and it's up to us to hold President Trump accountable, to keep him in line when it comes to all of these executive orders, making sure that this administration fulfills their promise. And without the help of all of us, no more of these. We got to get rid of the litmus test, but without the help of all of us, this is not going to happen. All right, part two, I'm going to break down more executive orders. I'm going to finish what I didn't get to finish this week. And so next week, we're going to be discussing crime. We're going to finish up talking about some DEI stuff, and then Trump's executive orders for 20 and how it affects, his executive orders that affect the 2020 election. We're going to talk about some of that stuff and more. So don't forget, we're starting next week, airing in a new time, 5 p.m. every single Saturday and 9 a.m. every single Sunday. Until next time, stay unafraid, stay unapologetic, and never stop seeking the truth.
Drew Burris here, Tech Baseball Outfielder. Just like in baseball, success is all about making the right play at the right time. At Associated Credit Union, they help you knock it out of the park every time. Whether it's scoring a low-interest loan or hitting a home run with savings, ACU has your back. With ACU, it's like having a trusted coach guiding you to financial victory. So step up to the plate and swing away with Associated Credit Union. Associated Credit Union, where anyone in Georgia can live, bank, and grow.